Don't let your ego get in the way of building or being on a great team. So, like a lot of you, I imagine, I've been watching the Chicago Bulls documentary on ESPN, The Last Dance, chronicling their the last season of the Bulls together and kind of intertwined with the backstories of key people on the team: Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, their coach Phil Jackson. And one thing that's kind of jumped out to me watching that's near and dear to my heart and my thoughts and philosophy is about letting ego get in the way of what you're building. And I think as you've watched this, you've seen a couple of different kind of compare and contrast attitudes towards ego. One, you had Scottie Pippen when they did his profile, and there's a lot that's great where he came from, the home environment he was in, how he walked onto his college basketball team, grew, and through hard work and everything else, made himself into a great player. Unfortunately, signed a contract that wasn't great, adhered to it. But at the end, we get to where, Scottie starts to put his own kind of personal goals ahead of the teams. They're going for a 6th straight championship, and he doesn't get surgery on a foot that apparently he could have gotten right after the season ended and been ready for the last season. And he talks about wanting to be traded, about not coming back, and really kind of bailing on his team in their last season. And compare that with a part they didn't show. I remember when Jordan was out, retired, playing baseball, and watching a Bulls game and seeing Scottie Pippen sit out the last seconds of a playoff game against the Knicks because he was mad that the play was not designed for him. It was designed for somebody else. And because it wasn't designed for him, he decided he was mad and he wasn't going to go back in. So he literally didn't come back in the game. And Tony Kukoc ended up hitting a game winner for the Bulls to win it. And that stuck out to me then and still does now. And I've told that story to my kids. And so you see ego get in the way here, I think, into what the team goals are. And, in basketball history, you saw that with Shaq and Kobe, too. They won 3 championships in a row, and then they couldn't coexist. So they broke up. And they've talked about, since then, about maybe what they could have accomplished if egos didn't get in the way. Now, compare that with, they just did the background on Michael Jordan, and certainly has an ego, I'm sure. But when they talked about hiring Phil Jackson, and Phil Jackson wanting to bring in a new offense, which was probably not going to allow Jordan to be the scoring champ, maybe the MVP. I think he probably won MVPs with Phil Jackson, but it wasn't going to be the scoring champ. The ball was not going to go to him as much. It wasn't going to isolation. It wasn't going to be all Michael Jordan with the ball. He had to get other people involved to take the team to the heights that it needed to go to. It hadn't won a championship yet. And so, and I'm sure, and it didn't sound like that decision came easy to Jordan. He was skeptical, and he liked the coach he had before who ran every play by him, but he bought into it and therefore let other players develop around him and created more of a team environment. I remember this well because I'm a huge Pistons fan, and certainly was back then as they were the champs, and the story's well told how then Jordan and the team overtook them. But I think that's a great example, part of what made Jordan great. And he's also known as like the fiercest competitor maybe ever in basketball, and yet he didn't let his ego get in the way of creating a championship team and adjusting for the betterment of the whole team, knowing he would get everything he wanted as part of those team goals, that there's enough glory and money and attention to go around for everybody. So I'm watching a lot of shows, more so than I normally do at home during this time. And so just saw the end of Bohemian Rhapsody again, another example with Queen. And if you watch that movie, you see the breakup of Queen based on Freddie Mercury's ego and wanting to go off and do his own thing. And you see how that worked out for him, not great. And then you watch a scene where he comes back, and it was, I think, really telling when he's talking to the other bandmates about, when he was on his own, everybody did everything he said, got him whatever he wanted, listened to everything. He got his way on everything. And he said something, and of course I'm paraphrasing here, but something to the effect of, there was nobody to rewrite the lyrics that I suggested. There was nobody to give me that funny look when I was out of line. Nobody kind of keep him in line. And he said at the end, like, he needed the band. It was he needs them. And they reformed, and they did a great concert at Live Aid, and went on to some legendary stuff before he unfortunately passed away. And so these all just stick with me as we're running teams and building a business here at Service Express, and watching such great talent around me here, and watching the greatest of the talent really, I don't want to say suppress their ego. Jim Collins has a great saying where the ego is for the company, the ego is for the team, the ego is to work together to do great things. We all have egos here, and I do too, by the way. And but the ego is really to build something great. And I'm so blessed to be surrounded by a great executive team and other leaders around Service Express. And I think, especially as we're going through this challenging time right now, if it was all about me, and I had to make every decision on my own in a silo without input from my team, I would fail. I would fail poorly. I love my team, that I can bring up ideas. I get counterpoints to those ideas. I get pushback. I get better ideas brought to me than what I had on my own. And together, we sort out what those ideas are. Do I have a strong voice? Absolutely. Do I listen to every idea? Yes. Do I take every idea? No. As a leader, I'm there to listen to all of them, gather them all, facilitate the discussion, and then together we decide on the best ideas. And of course, if there's a tie or we're undecided, I will make the final decision. And in my role, that's what I do. And so I really want to leave you that, being a team player and relying on others, communicating with others, and collaborating with others, that's a sign of strength. That's not a sign of weakness. And so I think the best teams channel their ego for the betterment of the whole group, and everyone does better in the long run. I hope this helps. Stay safe and healthy.